I know a lot of you have been expecting this. Even before I covered the Dragon Ball franchise, I've seen some requests for this. While I prefer Dragon Ball Z or whatever, I actually watched this way before I even got into Dragon Ball. Yes, this is one of the first anime I watched that made me really say, wow, this actually isn't garbage. Then it changed my mind, but we'll get into that later. Anyway, the show is about a world where everyone is a hired assassin, and there's some village of leaves that has a fox boy who wants to be the Führer, but everyone in the village hates him for some reason. I mean, we the viewers have reason to not respect him, cause he's annoying, but some of the villagers deadass hate the kid like they're racist or something. Apparently there was a giant fox that went up the block around the time the boy was born, and the Führer of the village decided to seal it into some boy in order to ruin his life, and also the Führer looks exactly like the fox boy for some reason, but I'm sure that's all just a coincidence. Anyway, the fox boy is hated by everyone because they're ops, and they hold him responsible for the jihad that took place earlier, even though he had nothing to do with it. And then the next Führer became the one that was there before, and he's like lit and powerful, yet also chill as hell, and he doesn't have a deep hatred for the fox boy, so you know he's cool. So fast forward nigga 12 years and the boy is trained to be an assassin, but doesn't have the skills. Then he steals some scrolls for a weirdo, and beats up the weirdo, so his teacher allows him to graduate from the Hitman Academy. Then he's put in a group with some pink-haired hoe, and the strongest and most popular kid in the class, Suzuki. The fox boy has a hard-on for the hoe, and the hoe has a hard-on for Suzuki, who really doesn't care about anyone or anything, other than getting revenge on his brother for putting the rest of the family on the news. So naturally the fox boy and Suzuki are arch enemies. Also their teacher is the coolest character on the show. He's like a high-ranking hitman who's chill, and generally better than everyone else. So the group goes on some adventure to the land of water, and they help a guy make a bridge or something, I don't know. But there's also an op hitman, and he's trying to kill the bridge maker, and the op has a trans sidekick. There's some fight scene, and Suzuki risks his life to save the fox boy. Then he gets possessed by the spirit within, and starts giving the beast to the trans. Then something else happens and they stop fighting, but honestly who cares anymore, and the enemy hitman puts the guy that hired him in his blunts. That season had pretty much nothing to do with anything, and now the plot begins. So the three musketeers are doing something when they notice that a bunch of dirty foreigners from the sand are polluting their streets and bullying the fox boy's disciple that also happens to be the grandson of the Führer. The foreigners are a sand boy named Gary, a girl with fans, and a puppet guy. Then it turns out that these refugees are here because there's some tests being held to determine who can be promoted to be a mid-ranking assassin. So the three main characters sign up and meet with their lame-ass classmates. They also meet Bruce Lee Jr., who can't use magic so he relies on his hands, who's also part of a team with a blind guy who can see everything, and a girl with some straps, all under Bruce Lee Sr. So they all take a GED test, with the purpose being to cheat, and all the relevant characters make it to the next round. So in the next round you have to survive in the wilderness, and you know niggas is grimy. Also there's some guy that looks like Smithers that's nice to them. There's also the snake man that shows up and starts bullying the main characters, and even gives Suzuki a hickey. So after handing it else to the kids, the snake man also rises one of the instructors because she was his former student. Also it turns out that the guy that was really nice was really a disciple of the snake man. So then the main characters make it to the next round, but before they move on they take a break to train, and the fox boy meets an additional teacher, Haraya, that's like the strongest guy from the village. So the next round of the exams is a bunch of face-building characters, which is like a ripoff of the tournaments from the Dragon Balls, but slightly more interesting. I mean, not more interesting enough for me to actually warrant going over most of them, but still these were some I lit. Gary fights Bruce Lee Jr., and at first Bruce Lee is giving him the beats, but then Gary goes psycho and tries to put Bruce Lee out of commission. And then the Foxboy puts the beats on the blind guy because the blind guy put his cousin on a stretcher, and the Foxboy proves to the blind guy that you can make up your own fate or something. So the final match is between Suzuki and Gary, as Suzuki hits Gary with the lightning and makes him feel some type of way, but then the weirdos led by Smithers clap their hands and everyone falls asleep. Then the Sand Führer tries to make a move on the Leaf Führer, and it turns out that the Sand Führer was killed, and he's been replaced by none other than the Snake Man, who was a former student of the Leaf Führer, and he's there to get the entire village out of the way. So basically the Sand and the Snake Man teamed up to send Temple across the leaves and stab them in the back. Also Suzuki chases after Gary because he pissed off, and the Foxboy and the hoe follow right behind them along with some smart guy, but then the smart guy takes a detour, so whatever. So the Leaf Führer and the Snake Man start throwing hands, but then the Snake Man does the most and resurrects the first two Führers and make them fight the current one just so he can get in his feelings. Meanwhile Gary gives the beast to Suzuki and the hoe, and then starts throwing hands with the Foxboy. It turns out just like the Foxboy, Gary has a spirit within him and is hated by the village with a burning passion. Also his fake ass uncle was the only person nice to him and tried to get him out of the way, so he feels some way about everyone. But back to the actually interesting plot. It turns out that the Snake Man has managed to find a way to live forever by finessing bodies, and he wants to possess Suzuki so he can get his eye superpowers. So the Leaf Führer managed to seal away the former Führers and also seal away the Snake Man's arm so he can't do magic again. But in order to do that, the Führer sacrificed his life. So as expected, the Snake Man gets in his feelings and has to be carried away by his slaves. So now the entire war is cancelled. Meanwhile, the Foxboy puts Gary on a stretcher, and I guess Gary reforms or something and now isn't genocide. genocidal. So right after this nonsense, Suzuki's cool ass brother named Hibachi stops by with his shark partner to take the boy and extract the power, because basically they're like terrorists or something. So Hibachi hands all the teachers an L, then pisses off to find the fox boy. So then Suzuki shows up for revenge, but Hibachi gives him the absolute beats and makes him relive the day of the family's massacre. So at this point he's like my favorite character, and he was so cool to me growing up that I decided to wear his outfits. But anyway, Hiraya shows up and makes them piss off. So then Hiraya and the fox boy go on an adventure to find the new Führer, and they do, and it's a woman named Tsundere. And there's some nonsense with the snake man, because Hiraya, Tsundere, and the snake all used to be one team under the old Führer, just like the main characters. Anyway, Tsundere becomes a new Führer, and Bruce Lee Jr. gets healed up after almost being paralyzed by Gary. And this is around the time I started watching the series when I first saw it. I mean, like DBZ, I went back and saw all the stuff before, but yeah, this is where it began for me. So Suzuki gets in his feelings over his weakness and challenges the fox boy to an Agni Kai. Then the cool ass teacher breaks it up, and it turns out that the fox boy would have put Suzuki in the doors if he hadn't. So Suzuki's Hiki makes him team up with some of the Snake Man's disciples that beat him up in order to become strong enough to kill the best character. Since the village of Lee's like North Korea, anybody who leaves must be taken out the game, but Tsundere allows the fox boy and his so-called friends to rescue him from the clutches of the Snake Man. So there's some saga where the niggas risk their lives over some guy they don't even like, including the stand-ups that try to put them on a shirt last season, and eventually the fox boy throws hands with Suzuki in order to bring him back, but Suzuki comes out on top and pisses off. So all the guys go back home and get hurt that they couldn't bring back some lame, but still the fox boy hasn't lost hope that he can bring him back. And I had to sit through like 4 lame ass story arcs before I figured out they were worthless filler, and that Suzuki wouldn't be returning, and I got in my feelings that I even had to spend any time watching that garbage. I mean, I have a lot of respect for the original series, but the second one isn't as good, but I knew I couldn't make a second video where I called it trash, because then you niggas would be on my ass. So instead I'm going to summarize the second part of the show and explain why I don't like it as much. Anyway, so the show starts with the fox boy coming back to the village, but he already has a mission lined up because Gary has been kidnapped by a terrorist, and also Gary is a Santa Führer now, so he actually matters. Eventually the terrorists are defeated, but they manage to seal away the spirit within Gary, and he gets put on a shirt, so the grandmother of the terrorist sacrifices her life to bring Gary back. Then some stuff happens and they meet Suzuki's replacement, who is infinitely lamer, and generally way less interesting or important. Also the foxboy catches the snake guy and runs a fade with him that ends up nowhere. Then for the first time in years, the foxboy and Suzuki see each other, and they do nothing really just to get on all the viewers' nerves. Then 2 terrorists kill the smart guy's teacher, so they get them out of the way. So Suzuki has had enough of the snake guy's nonsense, so right before the snake guy can violate him, Suzuki puts him in his blunt and sets out to find his brother so he can get him out of the way too. Meanwhile, the foxboy and his comrades are also looking for Hibachi so they can find out where Suzuki is. So Suzuki assembles a team of worthless and likable losers and puts an artist terrorist in the dirt. While this is going on, Hiraya goes on a mission to find out more about the terrorists and their leader, who has multiple bodies, because it turns out Hiraya was actually the teacher of the leader. But in perhaps one of the saddest moments in the entire franchise, he ends up on a shirt. Like seriously, this is one of the few guys that didn't deserve to be sent to the grave, and the worst part is he's actually gone forever. Eventually Hibachi and Suzuki throw hands, and unfortunately Hibachi ends up on the news too, so basically all the classic characters are becoming packs. But then some goofy terrorist that was selling the leaf hitman goes to take care of Suzuki, and he reveals that he's a member of Suzuki's family, and is actually the co-founder of the Village of Leaves, and the true hidden leader of the terrorists, that helps Hibachi put the entire family on his shirt. Also, it turns out that Hibachi didn't actually murder his family because he's just that nigga, but instead he did to prevent World War IV, which completely ruined his character for me because that's dumb, and now I don't like that nigga anymore. Like, how you gonna put 100 niggas in your blunt to traumatize the hell out of your brother, and say, oh, I did it to keep you safe? Trash ass explanation. Anyway, Suzuki for some reason holds absolutely no resentment towards the guy that helps kill his family and supposedly had the fox attack the village, and instead decides to put all the outers of the leaf on his shirt. And at this point in time I also start hating Suzuki because he's trash now. So the leader of the terrorists attack the leaf and get everyone out of the way, and I don't know how to feel about it, because on one hand I hate the village, so they can all catch themselves as far as I'm concerned, but on the other hand he got both of the foxboy's teachers out of the way, so he must pay the ultimate price. So the foxboy throws hands with the leader, and during the Nazi he meets with his dad, who's like the former Führer, and for some reason most of the people in the dumbass village couldn't put 4 and 4 together and realize the obvious. After a long fade, the guys end up underground, and the foxboy tells the leader that what he's doing isn't right, and magically just like that, the leader is like, you're right, let me overlook all the nuts I've been doing for the past 20 years, because some kid I literally just met told me to, and let me sacrifice myself to bring back all the niggas that I murked. So with that ass pull out of the way, the foxboy is now a hero in the leaf, even though he should have already been after stopping Gary like 4 years ago, but as previously stated, the townspeople are ops. Also Tsundere is in a coma, so some sicka that was like the old Führer's archenemy is chosen as the Führer in the meantime. Also while this is going on, Suzuki fought some Negro and had his ass handed to him, so now he's hurt. Anyway, there's some summit between villages, and the co-founder tries to bully the village Führers into giving him the remaining spirits, but they tell him to piss off, so he declares World War IV. Also Suzuki gets the sicko Führer out of the way and has a reunion with the old team, and at this point he's at his peak in unlikability. So the guys throw hands, and then the co-founder rescues him and prepares for jihad. Also Smithers, the Snake Man's disciple, raises a bunch of past characters from the dead and makes a deal with the co-founders to use their army in exchange for Suzuki. And also it turns out that one of the bodies he resurrected is none other than the actual co-founder, which means the guy we thought was the co-founder was actually a fraud-ass nigga. So for now we're gonna call him the Masked Man. Also the Foxboy meets with his mom while training, so that's cool. So World War IV has started, and the niggas fight a bunch of guys from their past that don't care enough to go over. Actually, one thing I will cover is how they brought back Gary's family, and they give some nonsense explanation as to why they were such dicks to him. And they were like, oh, his uncle really did love him. Like, no. What is with the characters in the show doing the absolute most and mentally scoring the person that looks up to them because they love them or some trash like that? Anyway, Hibachi is also brought back and is overpowered, so he manages to break free from Smithers' control and decides to stop the zombies by getting Smithers out of the way. Meanwhile, the real co-founder has been summoned to the battlefield and starts giving capitals to everyone he comes across. And I know I've been dissing the show a little, but I'm not gonna flex. This scene alone low-key got me back into the series cause it's lit as hell. Anyway, the Foxboy and the Negro that Suzuki threw hands with catch a fate with the Masked Man, and I guess he's trying to extract the spirits or something. Also, Hibachi and Suzuki team up to get Smithers out of the way in order to end the zombies, so all the risen niggas are sent back to where they came from, except for the co-founder because he's just that nigga. Also, all the niggas are fighting the Masked Man and the co-founder, and it turns out that the Masked Man is actually the Foxboy's teacher's former classmate, who gave him one of his eyes that they all thought died. And when I learned this, I felt some type of way, cause I remember back when the Masked Man said he was the co-founder, I believed it, and scoffed at all the niggas who said it was really the classmate. So yeah, alright, they was right and I was wrong. So it gets revealed that the classmate was actually saved and trained by the co-founder in order to act out his plan of controlling everybody by projecting their eye on the moon and making everyone peaceful and happy. Also now Suzuki has met face to face with his brother, who still loves his village despite the fact that they completely screwed him over. So Suzuki feels conflicted and resurrects the Snake Man, and then the Snake Man resurrects all the former fears of the village, and they tell him the story of his family or something, who cares. So Suzuki has decided he wants to join the good guys again, so that's that. But by now the classmate and the co-founder have recreated the original spirits, and he starts wetting up the block, and he even gets the blank out of the way, so things are really serious. So then some stuff happens, and the classmate ends up becoming the host for the spirits, but then the Foxboy uses unrivaled persuasion skills in order to get him to change his op ways and join them. So he does, obviously. Wouldn't you completely change your outlook on life because some boy you tried to fucking kill at birth, along with the rest of his family, told you to? Because why not? But anyway, the co-founder gets tired of the nonsense, decides to be the host himself, and he swiftly tries to bring about the series finale. Also, the Foxboy gets visited by his ancestor, the guy who invented superpowers, and he reveals that he and his brother fought against their mom because she was a hoe. Then after they got her out of the way, he had two sons, and the first son was a bitter asshole who became the ancestor of Suzuki's family, and the second son was chill and became the ancestor of the first Furious family and also the Foxboy. Then Bruce Lee Sr. unlocks a new mode and actually almost stops the co-founder, but it's not enough, and the co-founder traps everyone except for the original team and the old Furious in his illusion. So now his righteous plan has been fulfilled, but of course there has to be some hidden bullshit, and the ancestor's mother shows up out of nowhere because it turns out that this whole time one of the terrorists was just using everyone to bring her back. So the Foxboy and Suzuki team up to get her out of the way, and now all the ops are gone, so they're here to try to free everyone. But Suzuki wanna be a bitch and put the fears in the Foxboy on his shirt because that's his way of saving everyone. So the Foxboy and him catch one final fade, and once again I can't hate on it because it's just too lit. Eventually Suzuki finds out he's been a dildo this whole time and decides to be a good guy and be part of the Leaves once again. So all the niggas that got brought back are gone, and all the niggas that got put in a spell are back, and everything is back to normal. So fast forward some more years, and the Foxboy is now the Führer, and he and his friends have a bunch of worthless kids who unfortunately got their own show that I'm not gonna go over because it doesn't matter. But yeah, the series was okay. Everything before the old Führer died was almost perfect, and almost everything before Suzuki left was great, and almost everything after the terrorists destroyed the village was ass. So I think that cancels it out and makes it a decent out of noteworthy. One thing I really hate about the show are the flashbacks. Like, the niggas would spend half the episode talking about the same stuff they already showed like a million times, and they would spam these flashbacks like they were Family Guy or something. It was disgusting. Also, the show went on for 15 years, which is 10 too many. Like, honestly, they were doing the most. And one thing I really don't like is how the show is so up its own ass. Like, they really think they're teaching some major philosophical lesson by showing all these dumbass parallels between characters. Maybe in the future I'll make another video detailing all my complaints, but for now I hope you enjoyed the video because it's been something I've wanted to go over for a long ass time. After all, it's one of the things that inspired me to create, and as I said before, Hibachi is the reason I even came up with this ugly ass outfit. So remember that the Foxboy is the most persuasive man of all time. Okay guys, make sure that when you subscribe you hit the notification button because that lets you know whenever I make a new video, and as always, thanks for watching.